You're joking, right? Those raggedy things on your feet? We don't sell knockoffs here, sir. The manager's voice cut across the boutique like a slap. Conversations froze mid-sentence. Heads turned. Laughter rippled from a corner. The man stood still, expression unreadable. His shoes scuffed, faded Yeezys rested quietly on the polished marble. He didn't flinch. The manager, slick-haired and smug, raised his voice louder, feeding on the attention. I mean, come on, he chuckled. We cater to celebrities, not community theater extras. A white teenager near the fitting rooms stifled a laugh. An older couple side-eyed the scene with curiosity, not concern. Phones were already rising, screens aimed, recording. You know what this store is, don't you? The manager pressed. Beverly Hills Boutique. We sell real fashion, not flea market finds. Still, the man said nothing. No anger, no retreat. Just a slow glance at the shoes he wore, his own design, though nobody here seemed to realize that the energy in the room shifted. Not with shame, but spectacle. People watched, hungry for a moment, and the manager knew it. You must have wandered off Melrose. Happens sometimes. The man looked up, quiet, composed, but the storm had only started. You might want to try. The clearance section, the manager continued, smirking. Oh, wait, we don't have one. Snickers bubbled up from behind the displays. One employee, a young black woman, shifted awkwardly behind the register, lips pressed tight. She didn't speak. You sure you can afford anything here, sir? The manager asked. Or are you just window shopping for inspiration? There was no policy being enforced, no rules broken. Just a slow, strategic dissection of presence that the man didn't argue. He didn't defend himself. He simply nodded once, continuing down the aisle with his hands in his pockets, but the manager followed. These right here. He gestured to a limited edition pair on display, probably out of your league. But hey, maybe you're into the resale game. He stepped closer, voice lower but no less venomous. People like you usually are. And with that, the final thread snapped. The room had shifted entirely. Some watched. Some smirked. Some said nothing. But no one stopped it. The man paused, eyes resting on the display, then turned, walking slowly toward the exit. His silence wasn't a weakness. It was a memory. The manager's voice followed him, but this time it was directed elsewhere. Security? Can we get someone to keep an eye on our guest here? A guard near the door adjusted his earpiece and stepped forward, shadowing the man like a second skin. He's acting. Off, the manager added loudly, making sure every customer heard. The man didn't look back, but you could feel the heat. In the room, the kind that settles in your chest when dignity's been replaced by suspicion. Phones were recording now. The passive observers had become spectators. The guard walked closer, hands fidgeting near his belt. The man kept moving slow, steady, silent. He'd been here before, not this store, but this situation. And always the eyes, always the assumptions. A whisper cut through the tension. Wait, is that? A young woman across the store froze mid-swipe on her phone. Her eyes darted from the man's shoes to his face. She gripped her boyfriend's arm. Look at the sneakers, she said under her breath. No one has those yet. Those are unreleased. I saw them in a leaked photo last week. The boyfriend leaned in, narrowing his eyes. That can't be. But he wasn't so sure. The manager, oblivious, kept smirking, enjoying his performance. The girl's phone was already searching. A side-by-side comparison. A clip from a paparazzi shot that morning. A hoodie. Those shoes. Her breathing changed. Her expression twisted from amusement to stunned disbelief, because suddenly she wasn't so sure either. The man stopped near the door. Security flanked his left shoulder. Cameras still recorded Dot. He turned just enough for the crowd to see his face. Not performative, not angry, but piercing Dot in his eyes, years of being doubted. Erased, questioned, watched, judged Dot in his silence. All the words never spoken in rooms like this. He looked at the manager. Not with rage, but with recognition. Dot, as if to say, "You're not the first. You won't be the last." Dot. The tension thickened. Even the guard shifted uncomfortably. And in that stillness, something changed. The girl with the phone took one step forward. Her mouth opened, but no words yet. The moment hovered one breath away from revelation. But the man simply nodded. Dot and walked toward the exit, not defeated, not ashamed. Dot. Just done for now, because this wasn't over. Not by a long shot. Hours earlier. The hoodie clung to his frame, low enough to hide his eyes. He moved like a shadow down Fairfax, hands tucked deep into his pockets, head bowed not from shame, but intention. Los Angeles. Didn't glance twice. No flashes, no whispers. Just the rhythm of traffic and indifference. That was the plan. Them see what they think they see, he thought. He passed a mural with his own face on it. Nobody noticed. Maybe that was the part that stung the most, not the anonymity, but the ease with which people erased the man when the shine was stripped away. For once, he didn't want to be seen. He wanted to be studied by the world, by himself. He kept walking, stepping through neighborhoods that once welcomed him with cameras, but now offered nothing but doors that stayed closed and eyes that darted away. Today, he wasn't somebody. Dot, and that was the point. Fame had made him untouchable, but it had also made him invisible. They didn't see the sleepless nights, the betrayals, the headlines that never told the whole story. They saw chaos and ignored the cause. They labeled him arrogant, broken, canceled, and moved on. But under the noise, he was still human, still someone's son, someone's father, still breathing beneath the weight of public expectation. He didn't crave approval anymore. What he wanted was truth, raw, unfiltered, not wrapped in designer tags or filtered through magazine spreads. Just a moment, one honest moment, where people treated him as a man. Not myth. The documentary wasn't about him, not really. It was about us, about who we elevate and who we erase, about how fashion, like power, wasn't neutral. It played favorites. He'd stripped himself of labels. No stylists, no entourage. Just battered Yeezys, faded sweats, and a mic hidden beneath. The cotton. Every step into a boutique was data. Every side eye was a data point. Every cold glance, every fake smile, every "Can I help you?" laced with suspicion. It was all being recorded. He wasn't just filming racial profiling in retail. He was feeling it. And no one recognized him. Not in that outfit. Not with that skin. They didn't know the shoes were unreleased, or that the man wearing them had once redefined what sneakers could be. They just saw what they wanted to see. Which, in itself, was the whole point of the project. It started the same in every place. A nod that never reached the eyes. A smile that said, "Hurry up." Staff lingering just close enough to remind him he didn't belong. One store asked if he was looking for directions. Another nudged him toward the exit with a line about members-only showrooms. He never raised his voice, never revealed who he was, because the silence told him everything. But the last store, the one on the corner with glass walls and golden trim, was different, not colder, just louder. That's where things didn't just sting. They cracked open. And everything spilled out. As soon as he stepped through the polished doors, a quick glance exchanged between two white employees spoke volumes without a word. Their smirks tightened, eyes narrowing as if confirming a silent question. Is he lost? The weight of their judgment hit him before he even uttered a sound. It wasn't a curiosity. It was suspicion, an immediate assumption based on nothing but the color of his skin and the worn-out shoes on his feet. In that moment, the invisible barrier was unmistakable. He was already an outsider, unworthy of the space he dared enter. Store manager approached with an overly polished grin, too wide, too forced. His sharp suit and slicked-back hair screamed confidence, but his eyes betrayed something colder beneath the surface. "Welcome," he said smoothly, voice dripping with insincere warmth. "Can I help you find something specific today?" There was a pause, a calculated assessment behind the question. The manager's tone was polite, but the undercurrent was unmistakable, a gatekeeper deciding who belonged. "Maybe something from our latest collection?" he added, though his gaze flickered down to the man's scuffed shoes. His charm twisted into something darker, subtle barbs hidden in pleasantries, like a serpent wrapped in silk. Every word felt like a test, designed to assert dominance and question the visitor's place. The manager's voice lowered into a mocking whisper, almost theatrical in its cruelty. "You sure you can afford anything here, sir?" He leaned in just enough for others to hear, his smile sharpening. "Maybe you'd be better off browsing the clearance rack. Oh wait, we don't have one." The words hung heavy in the air. More than just a joke, they were a pointed reminder that this wasn't a place meant for him. But he stayed composed, silent, refusing to feed into the bait. His calm was a quiet rebellion against the bitterness wrapped in sarcasm. The manager circled slowly, offering backhanded suggestions. "Maybe try these if you're into resale markets," he sneered, eyes scanning from head to toe, as if measuring worth by brand labels and worn fabrics. Every comment was carefully crafted to belittle without outright accusation. A dangerous dance of microaggressions that exposed the toxic arrogance festering beneath polite facades. Without missing a beat, the manager signaled to a security guard lurking near the entrance. The man's presence felt suddenly heavier, every step shadowed and scrutinized. "Let me know if you need any help," the manager said sweetly, but the promise was empty. His words carried the weight of suspicion, reducing the visitor to a potential threat. Being watched like a suspect, followed with intent. It wasn't just uncomfortable, it was humiliating. Phone cameras began to emerge discreetly around the store, eyes flickering between curiosity and judgment. The silence from the protagonist spoke louder than any protest, a quiet defiance in the face of blatant bias. When he finally asked about the limited edition sneakers behind the glass case, the manager's facade cracked. "People like you usually buy replicas," he spat without hesitation. There was no hiding the contempt now. No smokescreen of civility, just raw, unfiltered prejudice. The accusation wasn't subtle. It was a declaration. A dismissal that said he didn't belong, that he was beneath notice except as a joke. Staff and customers nearby exchanged uneasy glances, the tension thickening like a storm about to break. A black cashier cleared their throat, stepping forward to intervene, but the manager's icy glare silenced them instantly. A look that said don't. Their words died on their lips, swallowed by fear and the suffocating power of the room. The protagonist stood alone, the walls closing in as hostility grew. "Garage sale Yeezys?" The manager's voice cut through the murmurs, loud enough for everyone to hear. A slow, cruel smile spread across his face as he gestured to the worn sneakers on the man's feet. "Seriously? You walk in here wearing those? Looks like you found them in a dumpster." The crowd began to gather, drawn by the spectacle. Whispers spread like wildfire. Some chuckled nervously. Others exchanged uncomfortable glances. The manager paced deliberately, turning his insult into a performance, feeding off the shifting energy. "I mean, these shoes don't just look old, they scream, don't belong." Laughter bubbled up from a few onlookers, though others seemed unsure whether to join in or feel the weight of the public shaming. The man stood still, eyes steady, refusing to react. The humiliation was deliberate, a weapon wielded in front of strangers, who suddenly became judges and jury. This wasn't just about shoes. It was about power, control, and tearing down someone in the most visible way possible. The store transformed into a courtroom, and he was on trial, his worth measured by scuffed sneakers and skin color. The manager's tone shifted, darkening as he suddenly grabbed the man's arm with a grip that wasn't gentle. "He looks suspicious," he announced loudly, eyes scanning the growing crowd. "Security, keep an eye on him." The words hung heavy, turning the man from a customer into a criminal in the blink of an eye. 2 security guards stepped forward, their presence a physical reminder of the unspoken assumption that because of how he looked, he was a threat. The word safety floated in the air, masking racial profiling as policy. Despite the escalation, the man remained composed. His silence was a quiet protest, a refusal to be diminished by accusations grounded in prejudice. His calm defied. The stereotype thrust upon him got around him. Smartphones appeared, discreetly capturing every moment. Social pressure mounted as the crowd split between shock, curiosity, and the discomfort of witnessing injustice. After a long pause, the man finally broke his silence with a low, steady voice. "You know what these shoes are?" The question sliced through the tension like a knife. The crowd shifted, suddenly attentive, leaning in as if waiting for the answer to an unspoken riddle. The store fell quieter, the air thick with anticipation. The words challenged the manager's assumptions without accusation, simply planting a seed of doubt. Everyone waited for what would come next. The manager's response was immediate and venomous. "Yeah, knockoffs or prison shoes. Hard to tell." His voice dripped with contempt, eyes gleaming with cruel certainty. The insult was sharp, merging classist and racial stereotypes in a single, cutting phrase. The crowd's reactions fractured some. Stifled uneasy laughs, others exchanged nervous glances. A few faces tightened, uncomfortable with the blatant cruelty. The man's expression didn't waver. His silence now spoke volumes, a calm force resisting the tide of hatred. A bystander's phone screen zoomed in on the scuffed sneakers, then slowly panned upward. Her voice was barely audible as she whispered to her boyfriend, "Wait, that's Kanye." The words were fragile at first, a flicker of disbelief breaking through the haze of mockery. Nearby heads turned subtly, eyes narrowing as the realization began to dawn. Phones were raised, fingers trembling as searches began. The crowd's energy shifted, confusion mingling with dawning recognition. Suddenly, the narrative was changing. Manager laughed, loud and dismissive. "Kanye West? Please. Kanye's in Paris right now." "This guy's a bum," he sneered, his arrogance peaking in the moment. His words were a final attempt to crush the budding doubt, to reassert control. But instead, they hung in the air, heavy with ignorance. The crowd grew silent, the manager's bravado now a spotlight on his own blind prejudice. The moment before everything tipped. Suddenly, the store's speakers shifted, and a familiar beat began to pulse through the air, one of Kanye's unreleased tracks. The black cashier gasped, dropping a box with a sharp clatter. Eyes widened across the room as the music filled the space. Phones rose higher. Faces turned toward the man, questions burning behind every gaze. The laughter faded, replaced by a quiet that screamed louder than words. The atmosphere was charged, electric, ready for the truth to break free. A phone screen lit up with a photo, same scuffed Yeezys, same worn jacket, the very same street from that morning. The store fell into stunned silence. Whispers turned to gasps. The power was shifting. The truth was about to rewrite the story. "Yo, that's Kanye." The shout sliced through the tense silence like a lightning strike. The words ricocheted around the store, cracking the brittle shell of judgment that had settled moments before. Heads snapped toward the voice, eyes widening as the realization swept through the crowd like wildfire. The atmosphere morphed instantly. Mockery flipped to awe. Suspicion gave way to admiration. People whispered excitedly, phones recording frantically, as if trying to capture history unfolding. The manager's confident smirk faltered, his eyes darting nervously, realizing he had grossly miscalculated. Whispers turned to murmurs of disbelief. No way, that can't be him. But the unmistakable scuffed prototypes on the man's feet told another story. In that instant, power shifted in the room. The crowd's energy charged, the man's silence now resonating with newfound strength. Slowly, deliberately, Kanye lowered his hood. The room held its breath as his face emerged from the shadows, calm and unwavering. A heavy silence settled, the kind that presses in on every side, demanding attention. Gasps fluttered through the crowd, eyes locked onto the man who had been hidden in plain sight. The manager's confidence crumbled under the weight of recognition, while onlookers struggled to reconcile what they had witnessed moments ago with the truth standing before them. Kanye's gaze swept across the room, steady and unyielding. Then, with quiet strength, he spoke, his voice soft but piercing. "I was just seeing how people treat strangers." Every word hung with purpose. "Looks like I found my answer." There's silence lingered, electric with meaning, as the room absorbed the sting of those simple truths. The manager scrambled to recover, his voice shaky and forced. "Mr. West, I didn't recognize you. I'm a huge fan." He reached out, trying to bridge the widening gulf with desperate flattery. But Kanye didn't flinch. His eyes held a quiet fire as he replied with measured calm. "No, you recognized exactly what you wanted to see." The words landed like a hammer, exposing the manager's hypocrisy and the ugliness beneath the polite veneer. It wasn't ignorance, it was willful blindness, choosing to see only the stereotype and not the person. The crowd fell into stunned silence. The air thickened with the weight of unspoken truths, the way bias cloaks itself in polite smiles. Fake concern. The manager's apology rang hollow against the sharp reality that had just been laid bare. "You looked at me and saw what you expected," Kanye continued, voice steady but cutting. "Not who I am." The room pulsed with a mix of shame and awakening. The balance of power had decisively shifted. Within seconds, the live stream on TikTok exploded. Views skyrocketed as users across the platform tuned in to witness the unfolding drama. Comments poured in outrage, support, disbelief, all fueling a viral firestorm. Reposts, shares, and hashtags like #JusticeForKanye and #racism exposed flooded feeds worldwide. The story transcended the boutique, sparking conversations about racial profiling and privilege in real time. The store's reputation began to unravel before anyone could blink. Negative reviews popped up, and celebrities voiced solidarity online. The power of social media made the private public, turning one moment of humiliation into a massive reckoning. As the numbers climbed, the atmosphere inside the store became charged with tension and inevitability. The narrative was no longer controlled by the manager's lies, but by the undeniable truth, flooding digital spaces everywhere. Reporters and influencers descended like a storm, cameras flashing and microphones poised. The boutique transformed into a chaotic media circus overnight. The crowd paid no heed to the floundering manager, now pushed to the edges, his authority evaporating in the spotlight of global scrutiny. Questions filled the air, hard and relentless. Journalists demanded answers. Influencers recapped every moment with fierce passion. The narrative was commandeered by those who refused silence. The manager's grip on the situation slipped completely, replaced by the unstoppable force of public accountability. Amid the uproar, Kanye stepped quietly toward the black cashier who had watched the entire ordeal unfold. His voice soft as he said, "You were the only one who looked human today." She met his gaze, stunned but proud, as he offered a sincere nod of thanks. In that brief exchange, a profound acknowledgement passed between them, recognition, not of status or fame, but of shared dignity and empathy. The moment stood in stark contrast to the public downfall playing out around them. It was a reminder that true power comes from compassion, not privilege. In a world eager to judge by appearances, this small act of gratitude echoed loudly, a beacon of hope amid the storm of injustice. The clip spread faster than wildfire within hours. Millions had seen the manager mocking the man's shoes, his sneering voice echoing across countless screens worldwide. Social media exploded as users shared the moment with furious captions and demands for justice. The digital realm transformed into a courtroom, and the verdict was harsh and unanimous. Influencers blasted the boutique for its blatant racism. Celebrities lent their voices, amplifying the outrage with hashtags like #RacismExposed and #JusticeForAll. Trending globally. Ordinary people joined the chorus, sharing their own stories of discrimination and calling out systemic bias. This is exactly why we can't stay silent. One popular streamer posted her video commentary dissecting the manager's toxic behavior. Another celebrity tweeted, "We must hold these institutions accountable. No room for hate in fashion or anywhere." The boutique's online presence crumbled as negative reviews flooded every platform. The momentum was unstoppable, a clear message that the public would not tolerate such injustice. In this digital age, exposure meant accountability, and the manager's arrogance was now on full display for the world to condemn. Calm but resolute, the man shared the viral video on his own social media, pairing it with a caption that struck a chord far deeper than the moment itself. "You treat the least of us this way. Imagine what happens when no one's watching." The words reverberated like a challenge to everyone witnessing the injustice. It wasn't just about one store or one manager. It was a universal truth about the hidden biases shaping everyday lives. The caption became a rallying cry, echoing across feeds and sparking reflection. It was quiet, yet world-shaking, a reminder that true character is revealed in how society treats its most vulnerable. The boutique's social media accounts were inundated with criticism. Comments demanded accountability. Calls for boycotts swelled as more voices joined the movement. Celebrities publicly condemned the behavior, using their platforms to highlight the ugly reality behind the luxury brand's polished facade. Yet, the boutique itself responded with defensive silence. No immediate apology, no acknowledgement, only the growing storm of public disapproval. Brands that ignore systemic racism do so at their own peril. A prominent activist wrote, "Consumer power is stronger than ever, and this will cost them dearly." The backlash was swift and merciless. Followers abandoned the page. Sales plummeted. What began as a local incident had become a global reckoning, a testament to the power of collective outrage in the fight against racial injustice. In response to mounting pressure, the company released a statement announcing the manager's immediate termination. "We do not condone discriminatory behavior and are committed to fostering an inclusive environment," it read. The firing was swift and public symbolic justice for an arrogant man who underestimated the consequences of his actions. A new leadership team, trained in diversity and equity, was installed to steer the boutique toward meaningful change. This corporate move marked a turning point, acknowledging the damage caused and beginning the long road to repair trust. For many watching, it was a satisfying moment of accountability finally delivered. Taking the moment further, the man announced the launch of a scholarship program aimed at empowering Black designers, titled Walk with Pride. "This isn't about revenge," he said. "It's about visibility, opportunity, and rewriting the narrative." The initiative promised to support emerging talent in the fashion industry, transforming personal pain into collective progress. It was a bold statement of resilience, reclaiming power from discrimination and building pathways for future generations. The story had evolved, no longer just a tale of injustice, but one of hope, empowerment, and lasting impact. At the next major fashion show, he appeared wearing the very shoes once mocked. Cameras flashed as he strode confidently down the runway. This is what power looks like when it's walked over and keeps walking, he declared, his words echoing far beyond. Fashion, sealing the story with undeniable strength and grace. Have you ever walked into a room and felt like you didn't belong? Maybe you were judged unfairly just because of how you look or where you come from. That feeling of being invisible, overlooked, or treated differently, it's real, and it's something many of us have faced. If you've ever experienced racism or bias like this, you're not alone. Think about the ways privilege changes the way people see us in stores, schools, jobs. How does race shape those everyday moments? Who gets the benefit of the doubt, and who's forced to prove themselves? These aren't just personal experiences. They reveal a system that favors some while holding others back. Now it's your turn. Share your story in the comments. Let your voice be heard. Spread this message by sharing this video with someone who needs to see it. And don't forget to subscribe for more stories that uncover the truth and fight for justice. Together, we can shine a light on racism and build a future where everyone walks with pride. #JusticeForAll, #racism exposed, #walk with pride.